Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Betsy Thompson and I have Sharon Brown with me, and we are on lesson 2 of a 10 series lesson on overcoming codependent behaviors and other dysfunctional behaviors. In our first lesson, we talked about what codependency is, what things brought on codependency, how people became codependency, why, and some of the things that you can do to overcome this behavior. One of the very first steps in recovery is learning to get in touch with your feelings. And that's what we're going to talk about today, Sharon. In the book Addicted to Misery, Robert Becker states, unresponsive parents caught up in their own problems give children inaccurate messages. For instance, the distressed mother struggling with her alcoholic husband is oftentimes too preoccupied to deal with the emotional needs of her children. And this is not always the parent's fault, but it's just the way it is in a dysfunctional home. And so now as adults, we need to correct that.
Okay, Betsy, how can you deal with your feelings?
Well, dealing with your feelings, first of all, when you really think about it and say, okay, I'm going to do it, you don't know where to start. We need to learn some things about feelings first, and then we can go on and learn how to deal with our feelings. I want to say again, it is one of the most important steps in recovery. You cannot go on to the other steps until you've done this one, to some degree at least. A lot of times in my classes, I will have the people in the class take a pen and throughout the rest of the 9 lessons, every time we say the word feelings, have them outline it, highlight it, underline it or something. And you will see how important it is to be getting in touch with your feelings and learn how to deal with your feelings. Melody Beattie is one of my favorite authors. I think her work has probably been more instrumental in my life than any other author. She has shared her experiences with codependency and does it in such a beautiful way. And she instills in your mind that when you've turned your life over to God, then God from there on is in charge of your life, and everything that happens from then on, there will be a reason for it. And she says that in dealing with her feelings and learning how to deal with her feelings, she shares with us that she was addicted to a 10-year habit of alcohol, heroin, Dilaudid, morphine, methadone, cocaine, and on, every kind of substance that there was that remotely promised to change the way she felt. And when she was in treatment, she got to feeling very good about herself, but when it came time to get out of treatment, she panicked. And she thought, how am I going to deal on the outside? And when she asked her counselor that, her counselor said, deal with your feelings. Well, that sounds simple enough, but how would you do that? And then when her family and friends doubted her ability to be able to stay clean and dry after she got out, she went back to her counselor and asked her, how am I going to do this? I don't have my friends behind me. I don't have my families behind me. And her counselor said, deal with your feelings.
Well, how can a person deal with their feelings?
Okay, well, she learned how to do it, and she shares that with us, and she says it works. She says, first of all, feelings are not the end-all, be-all to living. We cannot let them dictate or control our behaviors, but we can't ignore them either, because they will not be ignored. Because for one thing, they're our source of joy as well as sadness, fear, and anger. And they are the emotional part of us that laughs and cries. And they're the center for giving and receiving love. And that's why we can't have intimate relationships until we have learned how to feel our feelings and deal with them. Feelings are so important because they're indicators. When we feel happy and comfortable and warm and content, it tells us that everything's okay for now. When we feel uncomfortable with anger or fear or sadness, our feelings are telling us there's a problem. The problem might be inside of us, but we know something's wrong, so we can go to work on it. And when we have lived a life of suppressing our feelings, then these indicators, they don't give us the right signals and we don't know what to do about them. and we grow up very dysfunctional. We've got to learn to get in touch with our feelings. I have said before, codependents are usually very emotional people and are filled with all kinds of feelings, but they're not in touch with their feelings.
Okay, what do you mean by they're not in touch with their feelings?
They have been suppressing their feelings for so long that they haven't learned how to recognize feelings of anger and fear.
Oh, you're saying they don't know when they're angry?
They are afraid of feelings of anger. They were probably taught as children to suppress their anger, and they grow up still suppressing their anger, when anger is a natural response to something. And anger is telling you something. It's telling you there's a problem, see what the problem is, and decide what you want to do about it. But we must learn to feel our anger. The same with sadness. A lot of codependents and adult children have had so much sadness from their childhood that they try to avoid feeling sadness now. Sadness is simply a normal part of living, and we want to learn to feel that sadness without panicking, with living through it. And we're going to talk more about how to do that.
Okay.
Feelings can be positive motivators. For instance, anger can motivate us to solve a problem. Fear can encourage us to run from danger. If we've learned to live our whole lives in crisis mode, which a lot of codependents have learned to do, then when fear strikes, that feels normal to us. And we don't realize that our bodies are telling us there's something wrong. All of our signals get mixed up in our brain.
Okay, so they really don't know when they're angry, and they really don't know when they're sad.
Exactly.
Okay.
We end up not knowing what we're feeling.
Okay.
And all we do in this lesson on feelings is break it all down and one by one step at a time, learn how to feel, or let me say, allow ourselves to feel a feeling, any feeling, just pick a feeling, and learn to allow yourself to feel it. Repeated hurt and emotional pain tells us to stay away, and people who have not allowed themselves to feel their feelings will stay in very painful, harmful situations because the normal signals are not working in their brain.
Okay, so if they're in an abusive relationship, they'll stay.
They may stay
Okay.
because they are totally out of touch with their feelings. Our feelings provide us with clues to ourselves, our desires, our wants, and our ambitions. And if we want to recover from codependency, we've got to learn to feel our feelings before we can do that.
Okay.
Repressing feelings leads to all kinds of troubles of physical problems like overeating, undereating, alcohol, other drug abuse, compulsive behaviors, not sleeping, sleeping too much, obsessiveness, controlling, on and on and on. And all of this describes codependency behavior. And so not feeling our feelings is one way that we get into codependency. Also, repressed feelings don't go away. If we don't feel our feelings, if we get bad feelings from the past or feelings of anger or resentment and we don't want to deal with it, we think we can just push it aside. It doesn't go away, it goes inside.
Okay,
and it
so
stays.
instead of dealing with the problems, a codependent person put them in the back of their mind?
We suppress them inside of us, and they're going to come out at some point in time, and usually at the most inappropriate times. When we least expect it, those feelings of anger are going to pop out, or resentment. And also, after we've stuffed enough feelings, we have to stay one step ahead of all these feelings jumbled up inside of us. We have to stay busy. Obsessive compulsive behavior, doing something every minute.
Constantly moving? You say?
Constantly moving, maybe overworking, maybe overly involved in other people's lives, just running all the time.
To keep from dealing with your own problems.
Yes, exactly. And to keep from dealing with our feelings. Staying a step ahead of our feelings. We don't dare get quiet and peaceful because we might feel these emotions. And if we haven't learned how to deal with them, it scares us to think of feeling them. So feelings might not always be a barrel of gladness, but repressing them can be worse. We have a little chart that we use in our classes, and this is how it looks when we have suppressed feelings inside of us. There can be that many feelings inside of us.
That's a lot.
And we are trying to keep them in there, constantly running, constantly staying busy, constantly covering them up. And once we start dealing with our feelings, and we don't have all this inside of us.
Okay.
So, what's the solution? What do we do with our feelings? Well, we feel them. First of all, we want to understand that it's okay to have our feelings, all of them. Feelings are not wrong, and that's a message that sometimes we got wrong in childhood, that some feelings are good and some are bad. And not to have bad feelings, but feelings are not wrong, they're not inappropriate. We don't need to feel guilty about our feelings.
Yeah, like usually we are taught not to get angry.
That's right. But you know, the Bible told us many, many years ago to be angry and sin not. But somehow we get stuck on the first part and forget the sin not and think it really means be angry not. But that's not what it says at all. It says that it tells me that anger is a natural response, but to choose an appropriate behavior from the anger. And that's basically what dealing with our feelings is. Allowing ourselves to feel them, working through what made me feel that feeling. Was it justified? Did I have a good reason to feel it? Am I out of order? Maybe I'm overreacting, and choosing appropriate behavior. For someone that's never done that, you can't do it just by saying, oh, okay, well, I'm going to start doing that. It will take conscious effort on your
because
part.
they are afraid to. Okay.
And it takes practice to learn this new behavior. Feelings are emotional energy, an automatic response. They are not personality traits. And I have had people in my classes, I've asked them to choose a feeling, usually one that they don't like to feel, like anger or jealousy or resentment, an unpleasant feeling. And sometime when they think they're ready for it, the next time that feeling hits, be ready for it. Be kind of looking for it and say, now this time I'm going to let myself feel that feeling. And usually your first response will be to block it. It'll be inside. It'll be a gut-wrenching feeling.
Okay.
And you'll say, don't want to feel that one.
Okay, but like with jealousy, I mean, usually we are told not to be jealous of other
That's
people.
right.
And
But jealousy is an automatic response to something. Now, that may not be, it may be that you're off base with that feeling, but you work through it, and then you can say, you know, I really had no reason to feel that jealous, but don't suppress it. Work through it. And that is dealing with our feelings. Let me see. I wanted to really express the importance that we remember that feelings are an emotional energy. A feeling has an energy charge to it. And so if we think that we cannot feel it, we're wrong. Those feelings are a part of us. Our actions from those feelings are what we can control and make decisions on.
okay, so it's okay to feel them.
We've got to learn to feel our feelings. And we've got to learn that feelings are not good or bad. They are simply a response to something that happened. Now, after we learn this, we want to really realize that our feelings doesn't mean that we're going to allow ourselves to devote an extraordinary amount of time wallowing in the muck. It doesn't mean that at all. It means just the opposite. It's going to allow us to move out of the muck of the past of our life.
Can our feelings trick us?
Absolutely. Our feelings can trick us, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. If a feeling comes our way, we've got to learn to feel it. And then as we get healthy, we can learn to not let our feelings trick us and to sit down and realize if what we're feeling is appropriate. and if we're off base or not. But first of all, we want to feel it, acknowledge the sensation, and realize that we can live through it, that we can actually let an unpleasant feeling pass right through us and still be there. It didn't kill us, it didn't knock us down, it didn't set us back. Then we move on to the next step. We don't want to block it, we don't want to run from it, and we don't want to tell ourselves that old message, don't feel that, because that feeling is there. Experience it. Deal with your feelings. And that's what dealing with our feelings is. And then, as I said, this is where we will decide whether there's a next step. And this is where our moral code comes into play. According to our moral standards, that's the solution that we will choose. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. Sometimes just feeling the feeling is enough. Sometimes there won't even be another step. Just allowing ourselves to feel it will help us to see it in reality.
Okay, what do you mean by there will not be another step?
Sometimes in the feeling of jealousy, if we allow ourselves to feel it, and we think through it, and we realize that we were overreacting to a situation, we don't need to do anything else. We've let it go.
Okay,
We don't need to go to that person and talk to them about it. Sometimes we do want to go and take it a step further, and we have a good reason for feeling that, and we need to work on a certain problem. But we want to get the message into our head that we don't want to judge ourselves for having the feelings we have.
Oh, and is that what codependent people do?
We judge ourselves much too harshly for things that we have no control over, and one of them is feelings.
Okay.
It's okay to feel happy, and it's okay to feel sad. We've just got to learn to let ourselves feel it, let the emotional energy pass through, and then strive for peace and balance. Now, sometimes professional help is needed, depending on how far you've gotten out of touch with your feelings. If you get stuck in a particular situation or a particular stage and you need some professional help, by all means go and get some help to get through past this. Give yourself what you need. Get out of the I shouldn't feel that way attitude. You deserve the best, and that's what you need to give yourself. Feel your feelings, trust your feelings, trust yourself, but don't let your feelings control you. Now, for instance, you can get to thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you have to scream at everybody and throw things and hit.
Oh, so just feel it and let it go.
Feel your feelings, but don't take them out on other people. That's totally inappropriate. Just because you're scared and depressed, you don't have to lie in bed all day.
Okay.
Just because you're scared doesn't mean that you don't go apply for that job. So, see, we don't want to use this as an escape.
Like that's where obsession comes in.
That's escaping reality. That's back to codependency.
Okay.
Do not let your emotions control you. But if you don't feel your feelings and deal with them, they will control you. They will control you in physical ailments. They will control you in getting into victimized way of thinking and getting into bad relationships and getting involved with people's lives. So we want to learn to feel our feelings so they won't control us. Responding appropriately to feelings has responsibility attached to it. It means you're liable for your feelings. But we want to remember this. Each person's feelings are their own. And when someone tells you, you shouldn't feel that, they don't understand. Those are your feelings, and they really have no right to tell you you shouldn't feel a certain way. Nobody makes anyone feel. Nobody is ultimately responsible for our feelings except us. Now, we can try to make other people feel responsible for our feelings. We can try to make other people feel guilty for making us feel bad or for putting us into a certain position or situation, but ultimately we are responsible for our feelings.
Okay, so a person who is codependent, do they feel like other people are responsible for them feeling the way that they are?
Since codependents have gotten out of touch with the reality of their circumstances and their life, they usually blame everybody and everything for the situation they're in. And it's usually pretty innocent, because without these healthy tools to help them understand why their life is like it is, they don't know any different. They don't know any better. And they do usually end up blaming other people for the things in their life. Not only are we responsible for our own feelings and other people, we cannot blame other people for them, but we're not responsible for anyone else's feelings either. And codependents will get so involved with trying to get addicts healthy and to recover that a lot of times the addicts will blame the codependent for their feelings, and you just get into this vicious
that
circle.
affects their lives.
And so not only are we responsible for our own feelings, but we are not responsible for other people's feelings, except to be considerate of them. And we want to always be considerate of other people's feelings. When our feelings stay locked inside, they get too big and too powerful. And when we let them out, it dissolves them many times. This is such an important subject that we have written a children's story on it, a story that we can tell to our children and take the story in any direction that we want to with it, with our children.
Can children understand this?
Yes, they can begin learning this at a very young life. And we're going to go to Kevin's Corner now, where we have some of our children, and we're going to read the story to them, and they're going to give some interaction. And I'd like to invite all of you to write for more information to We Are Not Alone, 185 Amethyst Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, for children's books and for the booklet that Sharon and I are using. And I want to thank you for joining, and I hope you will join us for our next lesson, which will be on control. And thank you.
Hi, I'm Kevin. This is Kevin's Corner. These are my friends, Mario, Eric, and Perez. Our story today is feelings.
Thank you, Kevin. We're going to be reading some stories about a little boy named Jamie, and today we're going to learn about feelings. Jamie was very quiet after school one day. "What's the matter, Jamie?" Mother asked. "Is something wrong?" "No," Jamie said, "nothing's wrong." Yet Jamie was still very quiet. Later, Jamie didn't want to go out and play. "What's the matter?" Mother said. "Is something wrong?" "No," Jamie said, "nothing's wrong." Still later, though, Jamie didn't want to eat supper. "What's the matter, Jamie?" said Mother. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," said Jamie. Jamie did not want to read or watch TV before bed. When Mother tucked him in bed that night, she asked again, "Is something wrong, Jamie? Tell me what you're feeling." Jamie thought about what was wrong. He felt a little sad. No, he felt a little mad. No, he felt a little mixed up. He didn't know what he was feeling. Jamie started to cry and said, "Mommy, I don't know what's wrong." Mother hugged Jamie and said, "It's okay, Jamie. Whatever you're feeling, it's okay." Then Mother told Jamie about feelings. "Everyone has feelings, Jamie. Feelings are not wrong. They're not good. They're not bad. They're just your feelings, and no one can take them away from you. It's very important to feel your feelings. If you don't, they'll get all mixed up inside and they'll come out all wrong. Sometimes they stay inside for a very long time before they come out, but they'll still come out in some way. Maybe in tears, maybe in temper tantrums. If they stay in a very long time, sometimes they may come out in stealing or lying. So you see, it's very important to learn to feel your feelings when you feel them. Now, Jamie, let's try to find out what you're feeling." Jamie thought and finally said, "I think I feel lonely. I think I miss Grandmother. The last time we saw Grandmother, she was very sick, and I was missing her today, and I feel very sad. Mother asked, would it help if you talked to Grandmother? Jamie's eyes shined. He could feel the sadness going away. Yes, yes, said Jamie as Mother made the phone call. After Jamie talked to Grandmother, he thought, I like it when I feel my feelings. Then they go away and I can be happy again. Mother said, there's something else you need to know about feelings, Jamie. After you feel them, you must decide what to do about them. If you're feeling angry with someone, it wouldn't be good to go and hit that person. But you might want to go and talk to that person. Sometimes just feeling them is all you need to do. That night when Jamie said his prayers, he said, thank you, Jesus, for making Grandmother well and for letting me learn about feelings. And now Sharon has some questions to ask you about feelings.
Okay, Kevin, why was it hard for Jamie to tell his mother what was wrong?
Because he did not know what he was feeling.
Okay, that's correct. Mario, are some feelings wrong or bad?
Feelings are just feelings. What you do about them can be wrong or bad, but not the feeling.
Oh, that's a very good answer,
Very good.
Mario. Eric, what happens when feelings stay locked up inside of us?
It might come out lying or stealing.
Oh, a good answer.
Very good. Let us see the pictures you colored. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Kevin, for inviting us to Kevin's Corner. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming to Kevin's Corner.